The kindred light sailed through the vast silence of space, gliding beyond the bright stars and swirling nebulae. Commander Elias Wren stood at the front of the observation deck, looking out at the endless universe. Beside him, Kailati held his hand gently, her soft smile warm in the cool glow of the ship's lights. The peace they had fought for was fragile, but it was real. The Concordance Assembly had agreed to halt attacks and talks had begun, talks of understanding, trust, and cooperation. Elias knew the journey ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time since he had awoken beside Kailati, hope filled his heart. "Do you think peace will last?" Elias asked quietly. Kailati squeezed his hand. "Peace is a choice. It takes effort and courage. But I believe in it. And I believe in you." Elias smiled, feeling strength in her words. The days passed with new challenges. Elias met with diplomats, scientists, and leaders from many worlds. He shared stories of Earth, its beauty, its struggles, and its dreams. In return, he learned about the Valari and other species, their hopes and fears. Kailati was always near, guiding him through the new cultures, helping him understand things he could never have imagined. One afternoon, as Elias walked through the ship's garden with Kailati, they came across a small group of children, human and Valari, playing together, laughing under the soft light of glowing plants. Elias watched them and felt a deep joy. "This is why we fight," he said softly. "For moments like this," Kailati nodded. "For a future where our children can grow without fear." The bond between Elias and Kailati had deepened beyond friendship. They shared quiet moments in the ship's quiet rooms, learning about each other's worlds and dreams. Elias found peace in her presence, and Kailati found hope in his determination. But there were still doubts among some in the Concordance. Not everyone trusted humans yet. Some whispered that peace was only a pause before the next war. Elias knew trust had to be earned every day. One evening, as the ship traveled near a glowing blue star, a message arrived from Earth. It was from Elias's family, a brief, hopeful message that they were safe and proud of him. Elias's eyes filled with tears. "They never gave up on me." Kailati held him close. "And neither will we." Together they sent a message back, a promise to work for peace and unity. The kindred light became a symbol of hope and friendship among the stars. Elias and Kailati traveled from system to system, helping to rebuild trust and understanding. Their story, the story of a human commander and an alien nurse who held hands in the darkest moments, spread like a gentle light across the galaxy. One day, as the ship approached a new uncharted world, Elias stood beside Kailati and looked out at the green forests and sparkling oceans below. "This is a new beginning," Elias said, "for us and for everyone." Kailati smiled, her eyes bright with promise. "Together we will build a future where no one is alone." As the kindred light descended toward the planet, Elias and Kailati held hands, ready to face whatever new adventures awaited them. For in a universe filled with stars, their bond was the brightest light of all. In the vast emptiness of space, where countless stars twinkled like distant fires, rumors traveled faster than light. Among the many races that spread across the galaxy, there was one story told with a mix of fear, respect, and disbelief: the story of humans. No one knew exactly why humans were so feared. Some said it was because they had survived disasters that would have wiped out entire species. Others believed humans were clever beyond measure, able to invent solutions out of nothing. And many thought it was something deeper, something almost impossible to explain. A strange kind of strength that came from their spirit. For years, bounty hunters and assassins had heard whispers about humans being a death sentence. This was not a common phrase in their line of work. Normally, every target had a price, and every job could be done if the assassin was skilled enough. But humans were different. In the dark corners of spaceports and the smoky back rooms of interstellar bars, assassins exchanged stories. They spoke of failed attempts to kill humans, of traps they could not escape, and of fights where humans somehow won against impossible odds. No one wanted to take a human contract. Not because the money was low, in fact, human targets were among the highest paid, but because the risk was too great. Too many assassins who tried never returned. In a small, dimly lit room on the starship Vortex, a group of assassins gathered. They were some of the best in the galaxy, skilled, cold, and experienced. Their leader, a sharp-eyed alien named Keylor, spoke in a low voice, his face hard as stone. "We have a new contract," Keylor said, sliding a data chip across the table. "A human diplomat. High value, high risk." There was a tense silence. One of the younger assassins, a lithe woman named Mira, looked at the chip with a mix of curiosity and fear. "I thought we agreed," Mira said softly. "No humans." "Not anymore," Keylor nodded. "That's the problem. But this contract came from the highest level. Refusing is not an option." Another assassin, a bulky, scarred man called Droth, laughed darkly. "Even the guild says no to humans. What makes them think we can do better?" Keylor's eyes narrowed. "That's what we need to find out." The room grew quiet as the assassins considered the impossible task before them. Killing a human diplomat was not just about skill. It was about understanding the unknown, why humans were so dangerous. Far away on a bustling human space station called Arcadia, the diplomat named Elena stood by a large window, looking out at the stars. She knew she was a target. Every step she took was watched, every word recorded. But she did not show fear. Elena had learned a long time ago that fear was a weakness humans could not afford. Her security team moved quietly around her, alert and ready. They were trained not just to defend, but to outthink anyone who tried to harm her. Elena smiled faintly. She knew the stories, the rumors of assassins who tried and failed. She had seen what humans could do when pushed to the edge. Back on the Vortex, Keylor gathered his team. "We leave for Arcadia in 2 days," he said. "Prepare yourselves. This will be the hardest job any of us has faced." Mira studied the data chip again. The diplomat's schedule, her security measures, the technology used. It was all designed to be impenetrable. "How do we even start?" she asked. Keylor smiled coldly. "By learning what humans fear. Because every creature has a weakness. But the assassins were wrong. Humans did not fear death as much as they feared failure. They did not fight just to survive. They fought to protect their future." As the starship Vortex hurtled through space toward Arcadia, the assassins prepared for a mission that would test everything they thought they knew. They were about to learn why even the best killers in the galaxy said no to humans. Because with humans, every move was a gamble. And losing meant more than just death. It meant the end of legend. The Vortex slid through the void, its dark hull reflecting distant stars like tiny mirrors. Inside, the assassins prepared quietly, each lost in their own thoughts. Keylor stood by the navigation panel, his sharp eyes fixed on the glowing map of Arcadia, the human space station they were about to reach. Mira paced the narrow corridor, her mind racing. She was nervous but excited. Unlike the others, she was young, and the challenge called to her like a wildfire. She wanted to prove herself, to show that the stories about humans were just exaggerations. Droth, the bulky, scarred assassin, sat silently in the corner, cleaning his weapons. He muttered under his breath, reminding himself of every failed attempt he had heard about. "Humans don't fight like others," he said quietly. "They use everything. Their minds, their will, their pain." Keylor gathered the team in the main chamber. "Listen carefully," he said. "This mission is not like any other. The target, Elena, is protected by the best human technology and trained guards. But it's not just the tech we need to worry about. It's the people." "What do you mean?" Mira asked. "Humans are unpredictable. They can turn anything into a weapon, any place into a trap. They think fast and adapt faster. We need to be careful." As they approached Arcadia, the station grew larger on the view screen. It was a massive structure, a ring of metal and glass spinning slowly around a small planet. Lights flickered along its surface, and ships moved in and out like busy bees. The Vortex slowed down, preparing to dock at a secret hangar. The assassins went over their plans one last time. Their mission was simple: get close to Elena, eliminate her, and escape without being caught. But the reality was far more complicated. On Arcadia, Elena's day was filled with meetings, speeches, and careful smiles. She wore a calm mask, but inside she was always alert. Every word she spoke was carefully chosen, every movement calculated. Her security team was like a shadow, always near, always watching. They were humans trained to think like predators, ready to strike before danger could even appear. Elena knew the rumors about assassins refusing to touch humans. She did not believe in luck. Instead, she trusted in preparation and the strength of her team. In a quiet room behind the main hall, her chief of security, a tall man named Jaren, briefed the team. "We have new information," he said, voice low. "A group of assassins is on the way. They don't usually take contracts like this. They think they can break the rule." The team exchanged looks. Elena smiled slightly. "Then we will show them why they are wrong." Back on the Vortex, the rogue assassin Mira volunteered to lead the first attempt. She was confident, eager to test her skills. Kaylor warned her, "Don't underestimate them. Humans are not just fighters, they are survivors." Mira nodded and prepared her gear, a mix of advanced gadgets and traditional weapons. She moved like a shadow when the ship docked at Arcadia, slipping quietly through corridors and security systems. Her first try was to intercept Elena during a public event. But the humans were ready. As she moved closer to the target, sensors picked her presence and alarms rang out. Human guards appeared instantly, surrounding Elena and forcing Mira to retreat. But Mira did not give up. She watched carefully from the shadows, learning. Over the next days, Mira tried different tactics, using stealth, distraction, and hacking attempts. Every time, the humans adapted quickly. They closed weak points, set traps, and communicated faster than she expected. In one close encounter, Mira barely escaped a room that suddenly sealed shut, cutting off her exit. She realized that the humans had turned their own environment into a weapon. Frustrated but fascinated, Mira began to wonder about the strength behind human survival. It was not just about weapons or technology, it was about willpower. Meanwhile, Elena and her team studied the patterns of the attacks. They understood that the assassins were skilled but lacked the experience to fight humans. Jaren explained to Elena, "They expect a quick kill, but humans don't die easy. We are unpredictable because we are used to danger." Elena nodded. "We survived because we never stopped fighting." Her team worked together, creating false trails and fake targets to confuse the assassins. They used their knowledge of human nature to turn the enemy's strength into weakness. One night, Mira was caught in a trap designed to test her resolve. She found herself surrounded by darkness, locked in a room with no clear way out. It was a test, not just of skill, but of mind. The walls whispered old human tales, stories of survival and courage. Mira felt something she had never felt before, a strange respect for a species that had built hope out of hardship. She fought her way out, but it was clear to her now, killing a human was not just a physical challenge. It was a battle against their spirit. Kaylor watched the reports with growing concern. "Mira's lucky to be alive," he said. "We need a new plan." Droth suggested, "Maybe we should leave it." "Humans are too much," Kaylor shook his head. "We finish what we started, but we do it smarter." The assassins began to rethink their strategies, realizing that humans forced them to change, to adapt, and that was the real danger. As the days passed, the tension grew. The humans on Arcadia were proving that their legends were true. Mira, once full of doubt, now felt the weight of the challenge. The mission was more than a job. It was a test of willpower and survival. She wondered silently, what makes humans so strong? Why does everyone fear them? No one had the answer yet. But one thing was certain, this was only the beginning. After days of failed attempts and narrow escapes, the rogue assassin Mira found herself captured by Elena's team. It was not a brutal fight or a trap, but a careful plan by the humans. They wanted answers. More than that, they wanted to understand why the assassins had tried so hard, and why they were failing. Mira sat quietly in a small, softly lit room. Her hands were free, but she was watched closely by two human guards. Across from her sat Elena, calm and confident. The human diplomat's eyes did not show anger or hatred, but something else, curiosity. "Why did you try to kill me?" Elena asked, voice steady. Mira blinked. This was not what she expected. Usually captives were treated harshly, questioned roughly. But Elena spoke as if she wanted to learn. "I was hired," Mira said simply. "It was a contract, but I didn't expect to fail." Elena smiled faintly. "You did not fail because you are weak. You failed because humans are not what you think." Mira's mind raced. She had heard stories, tales of human resilience, bravery, and survival. But what made humans so different? Why were they so dangerous? Elena leaned forward. "Let me tell you a secret. Humans come from a world that was once harsh and unforgiving. We survived wars that destroyed cities, diseases that wiped out millions, and disasters that changed the face of our planet. Every time we learned, adapted, and grew stronger. Mira listened closely. She had never heard such honesty before. We were not born strong. We became strong because we had to be. Our strength comes from our will, our determination to live no matter the cost. Elena's words struck a chord. Mira thought about her own people, who often relied on power and technology. But humans? They seemed to rely on something deeper. There is more, Elena continued. Humans have a way of understanding each other that goes beyond words. We feel each other's pain and hope. This gives us strength no weapon can break. Mira looked at the human guards, who stood silently, their eyes steady and calm. I don't understand, Mira said quietly. How does feeling pain help you fight? Elena smiled softly. When you know pain, you learn to avoid it. But when you understand pain, you learn to protect others from it. That connection gives us courage. Mira felt a strange respect growing inside her. She had thought humans were just lucky or clever. Now she saw that their power came from something greater, a spirit that refused to be broken. Why didn't your people warn us? Mira asked. The guild, the other assassins, they all say humans are too dangerous. They don't want to fight you. Elena looked sad for a moment. Because many do not understand us. They fear what they don't know. But the truth is, humans do not want to fight. We want peace, but we will protect ourselves with everything we have. Mira nodded slowly. The assassin realized that the stories were true, but not because humans were invincible. They survived because they refused to give up. Meanwhile, on the vortex, Keylor and Droth waited anxiously. Mira's failure and capture were bad news, but something about the reports made Keylor curious. Why do humans fight so differently? Keylor asked Droth quietly. They don't just attack or defend, they think, they feel. It's like they are connected, Droth grunted. I don't like it. It's unpredictable and dangerous, Keylor nodded. We need more information. Mira might have failed, but she has seen something we haven't. Back on Arcadia, Elena continued to share stories with Mira. She told her about human history, about how the species had survived on a planet full of dangers. Long ago, our ancestors lived in small groups fighting for food and shelter, Elena said. But instead of destroying each other, they learned to work together. They formed families, communities, and nations. That cooperation became our greatest weapon. Mira thought about this. In her world, survival was often about power and strength alone. But humans had something different, trust. Humans learn from each other, Elena said. We pass down knowledge, not just skills but values. That is why we are strong. Mira began to understand. The strength of humans was not just in their bodies or weapons, but in their hearts and minds. Elena showed Mira holograms of past battles, not just the violence, but the acts of kindness and bravery. Soldiers risking their lives to save strangers, families rebuilding after disasters, children dreaming of a better future. Humans fight for each other, Elena said, not just for themselves. Mira realized that this was why humans were so hard to kill. Their will was tied to something bigger than themselves, a future they all wanted to protect. Days passed, and Mira's feelings changed. She was no longer just an assassin. She was a student of something greater. Elena offered her a chance. You can go back to your guild and tell them the truth. Tell them that humans are not to be feared because they are invincible, but because they never give up. Mira nodded slowly. I will, but leaving was not simple. The guild did not want to hear the truth. They wanted to believe humans were just lucky or cheating. Mira knew that sharing her new understanding would be difficult. On the vortex, Keylor was preparing for the next move. We must respect what we do not understand, he said. Humans are more than targets. They are a challenge to everything we know. Droth added, we may lose more than lives if we don't learn. Keylor nodded. Then we adapt. As Mira prepared to leave, Elena gave her one last piece of advice. Remember, it is not our weapons that make us strong. It is our hearts. If you ever face humans again, remember that. Mira left Arcadia with a new mission, not to kill, but to learn. She wanted to understand humans better, to find a way to survive in a galaxy that was changing. And deep inside, she hoped that someday, the assassins would stop fearing humans, not because they were dangerous, but because they were worthy. The space station Arcadia shimmered under the distant light of its star. Its smooth curves and bright lights were a symbol of human progress and resilience. Inside its walls, the calm before the storm was almost tangible. Mira had returned from her captivity with a new purpose. She had seen the heart of humanity, a spirit that no assassin had understood before. But now, with the knowledge she carried, she and her team had to face the reality that the humans were preparing for something bigger, a final test of skill and will. Back on the vortex, Kalor paced in the command room. His face was tight with concentration. "We can't keep attacking blindly," he said. "Every attempt is met with more defenses. The humans adapt quickly," Droth nodded. "They're not just defending. They're setting traps. They want us to make mistakes." Mira, standing nearby, spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "We need to change our approach. Instead of trying to kill Elena quickly, we should try to understand their methods. We need to think like humans if we want to succeed." Kalor looked at her thoughtfully. "You've changed since your capture." Mira smiled faintly. "I've learned that humans don't just fight to survive, they fight to protect what they love." Elena on Arcadia had no idea that her enemy was beginning to understand her people's strength. She was focused on the future, preparing her team for what she knew was coming. "We have to be ready," she told Jaren. "They will try harder, but we will be ready for them," Jaren nodded. "We've laid the traps and prepared the decoys. The moment they move in, we strike back." Elena smiled. "Because humans do not run. We stand and fight." The next attempt came quickly. This time the assassins did not try to strike directly. Instead, they infiltrated the station using disguised ships and false identities. Mira led the operation, moving quietly through the corridors of Arcadia. She studied the human guards, watched their movements, and tried to predict their responses. But the humans were always one step ahead. The station's security system alerted Elena's team to the intruders before they could reach her. Within seconds, the corridors were sealed, and the human forces moved swiftly to surround the assassins. Mira signaled her team to fall back, but it was clear that the humans had planned for this. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the temperature in the corridor dropped sharply. The walls, once smooth and bright, shifted and changed. The assassins found themselves in a maze, a labyrinth designed to confuse and trap. Elena's voice came over the comm system. "Welcome to our world." The maze was more than just a physical trap. It played on the minds of the intruders, using sounds, lights, and illusions to create fear and doubt. Mira's team moved carefully, relying on their training and each other. But the maze seemed to know their weaknesses, pushing them to their limits. Inside the labyrinth, Mira remembered what Elena had said. The humans fought with their hearts. She reached out to her team, reminding them, "Stay calm. Trust each other. We survive by working together." Slowly, the assassins found their way through using teamwork and determination. They faced challenges that tested their courage, their minds, and their resolve. Each trap forced them to learn more about human strength, not just physical, but emotional. Finally, after what felt like hours, the assassins reached the heart of the maze. There they found Elena and her guards waiting. But instead of a fight, Elena spoke calmly. "You have come far. You understand now what humans truly are." Mira stepped forward. "We do, and we respect it," Elena nodded. "Then you know why we do not fear death. Because we fight for something greater." The confrontation ended without violence. Instead, both sides gained a deeper understanding. Kalor, watching from the vortex, received the report with a mix of respect and unease. Humans do not just survive. They transform challenges into strength. Droth sighed. "Maybe we should stop trying to kill them." Mira smiled. "Maybe it's time to learn from them." The story of the labyrinth and the peaceful meeting spread across the galaxy. It became a symbol of hope and respect, a reminder that even in conflict, understanding could grow. Elena and Mira both knew that this was not the end, but a new beginning. Humans had shown once again that their greatest weapon was their heart, and now, even their enemies could not deny it.